Your life, your rules. Unlocked with Huawei Mate 7's advanced fingerprint security on a 6-inch display. Huawei Mate 7. Huawei.
The core of the university is inspired by what we call these exponential technologies. They're areas, computers, networking, sensor systems, robotics, artificial intelligence, digital biology, medicine, neuroscience, digital manufacturing. These are areas that have doubling traits in price, performance, and capacity. Moving so fast that we're not even aware of where it's going, but there's a predictability to it. But it's not just about technology. If you want to look at technology solving the biggest problems, the biggest hurdles typically are political and social hurdles, right? So we're seeing it with autonomous cars, right? The robo-car is going to be commercially available in the next 5 years. And when people think about it at the first time, we kind of freak out. We're not sure what to take of it. Regulatory bodies, politicians, they are not technologists, right? So when they see these technologies, well, first of all, they're not even aware of where it's headed, so that's a problem if you have politicians making large-scale infrastructure decisions or policy decisions. But we have great opportunity to use these technologies for a greater good, but we have to get through the social adoption, the regulatory issues, and the political issues to ever see these technologies really come to fruition.
And it's robotics that is your foundation and your background, because, you know, the idea of a robot has gone from some quirky sci-fi thing or a dystopian vision of, you know, how things could go wrong to a pretty essential part of our lives. There's software robots, but more and more we're associating with self-driving cars.
Yeah. Definitely, the robotic car is going to be one of the most transformative technologies that we see on the planet, and this is going to affect every part of the world, right? This is not something you're just going to see in Silicon Valley. Robotics in general is really at an exciting part of this exponential curve of technology progress. We're now at a point where we can have 8-year-old kids building robots that can run around and interact with us because we have coding platforms that are open source, that use drag and drop interfaces. You don't have to be a PhD roboticist anymore to be able to program an extremely complicated system and allow it to do amazing things.
What do you think the disadvantages of, say, a robot down in a mine laying explosives? I suppose the first example that people would say it lacks human judgment, but I think you could pre-program it with a set of responses for a certain circumstance, right?
Yeah, sure. In fact, that's something where that's a big part of the adoption of robo-cars, right? You know, you kind of hit on a couple interesting things there. Robots are very, very good at doing tasks that are very difficult for us to do, right? Typically, when we talk about the types of tasks that robots are good for, we talk about the dirty, dangerous, and dull jobs, right? Things that we don't want to be doing, things that are repetitive, things that you have to use a lot of strength, and maybe there's stress strain issues, or places that are just dangerous, right? The leading edge of robotics today, you can see in terms of general purpose autonomous vehicles is with the DARPA Robotics Challenge. The DARPA was inspired by the Fukushima nuclear power plant disaster a few years ago. And if ever there was a place that you don't want to send in humans to save lives and to have to you know, shut down the system, it's a nuclear fallout situation, right? So the DARPA put up a $2 million challenge, and there's a bunch of systems being developed for disaster recovery, disaster situations. With robo-cars, we're in an interesting place where our biggest concern is, will robotic cars kill people? Right? Well, there's more than 1 million people that die every year because of drunk drivers or people texting on their phones, right? And so that's a reality of what we live in today. Would we prefer a world where 100 people die from accidents of robocars versus 1 million people dying because of drunk drivers?
Which begs the question, what are all of us humans going to do? We can't drive our own cars. Our doctors are our cell phones. You know, what are we going to do with a 7 billion population? We're going to get bored pretty quickly.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. That's a big question because robotics are going to play a huge role in doing a lot of the jobs that we do today. And long term, we are going to have tools and technologies that are going to empower us, and we'll be able to provide the basics for us in a way that we could have only imagined in science fiction before, which will allow us to focus on our creativity, focus on the pursuits that we're passionate about, and explore outwards and inwards in my mind, right? Once the basics are established, if we have a system that will allow us the freedom and luxury to follow our passions and pursuits, incredible things can come of it. Let me just see if I can wake up Wesley here. This is my friend Wesley. Wesley is a fun member of our household. Wesley, are you awake? Wesley? Okay, great.
Hello, how's it? Swabona, my name is Wesley and I am a now robot. I am very pleased to be here in South Africa with Singularity University. I have many robot friends around South Africa, but not the ones that like to stop traffic. Rob is my friend, but he is not a very good robotics programmer. He does like to talk about robots and their implications, a lot. Speaking of which, my friends and I know that some of you are worried about us taking your jobs. You should be, but working together, we can do much more and we create many new types of jobs. If you are still concerned, why don't you meditate with me?
You've brought the Singularity University people out here to look at how they can help advance and enhance your business. And you've come across some very good examples and ways that you can be a more efficient business, right?
Absolutely. What's been really interesting for me is when you go through the things that they're telling you around technology change, you can suddenly see how the big social problems in society are actually real business opportunities. And so suddenly business and social change are coming closer together. And if you speak to your youngsters, this is just what they've been waiting for. They really want to work for a company that is driving social change and being at the forefront of just corporate values, I suppose. In every country we operate, we're actually systemic. We're a large bank in every country. If we don't do good, the country will fail. And that's quite a responsibility. And so we're really driving to be relevant in the communities we're operating. And that means you have to look at business quite differently. And so it's just very exciting that technology is bringing this social problem solving together with good business. And that's quite exciting for the future.